Alright, so I'm going to try and do this in one take. But before we get into this latest alleged Grand Theft Auto 6 leak, special shout out to Xbox Gamer Idol Sloth 84, who initially posted the following details prior to the recording of this video. So yeah, I am not the originator of this info, though a link can be found in the video's description. With that being said, according to this leak, Grand Theft Auto 6's story is still incomplete and probably will stay incomplete until Grand Theft Auto 6 actually launches. Therefore, according to the leaker, it's impossible to go in depth and mention every mission from Grand Theft Auto 6, but they've pretty much covered the entire game. If you look at the leak, I'm not going through the entire game here in case it's real. I don't want to spoil this game, but you know, I'm going to discuss the characters and locations and other things very briefly, give you an idea of what's in the leak, and you can go to the link. I will link it. You can go to the leak link, and if this all turns out to be legit, you can spoil it for yourselves. I will not do that. So, according to the leak, there are rumored to be 3 main characters. The first character we'll discuss is Ricardo Origado, a low-level Cuban drug smuggler nearing middle age based in Vice City, and throughout the first act, Ricardo engages in petty smuggling for a sizable Hispanic alliance whom he's been rolling with for years. It's business as usual, attacking rival smugglers, evading police, and getting out of tricky setups. At some point during the first act, Ricardo kills a police captain and the husband of the third protagonist, Rose. This provokes Ricardo to be outlawed from his organization with a price on his head, forcing him to go into hiding. You cannot play as Ricardo during this time. Second character mentioned in the leak is Casey. Now, Casey is a petty criminal based in Carcer City. Casey is the youngest protagonist in the Grand Theft Auto series, in her early 20s. The second act takes place across Carcer City and Liberty State. Casey has a ferocious temper that often gets her into trouble. Over the next act, you work with multiple gangs and low-level criminals, and little Jacob from Grand Theft Auto 4 makes an appearance, but is a far more significant player in the criminal underworld. So we've got returning characters. Now, frustrated at his inability to move up in the criminal hierarchy, mixed with some poor decisions and betrayals, Casey forms a rivalry with the Yardies gang, that's the Jamaican gangs, headed by little Jacob, referred to only as Jacob Hughes in this title. After recruiting a small crew, Casey and the crew engage in small battles with the Yardies, set on bringing them down and eventually taking their place as the kings of Broker. However, plans go awry and many of Casey's friends are killed. The police intercept Casey and is sent to federal prison, to one of the large jail complexes. If you don't break out, Rose will eventually have you released. Now, here's the thing. There must have been a typo here, because at some point in the text, it refers to Casey as female, and then later on, it's he. So I'm a bit confused. I'm going with he because he's mentioned more than she. So I'm assuming Casey is indeed male. However, as I say, Rose will eventually have you released. Now, apparently, before we introduce the third character, Rose, this takes us back to Vice City, with events taking place before the start of the game. Ricardo and his crew are engaging in the same shenanigans they were really up to prior to the first act. Eventually, word comes down from the top that one of the incarcerated leaders of their organization is being transported to Cottonmouth Penitentiary, and Ricardo is one of the soldiers ordered to hijack the prison bus. Now, as the break is happening, a cutscene shows Casey in the back of the bus. During the ensuing gunfight between Ricardo's organization and the police, Casey takes his opportunity to flee the scene. So his, again, it's definitely a guy, Casey. So this is the first time the game presents the player with the option of switching between characters, just like in Grand Theft Auto 5. This is done differently than in Grand Theft Auto 5. Instead, the camera very quickly zooms across the streets to the location of the character you're switching to. It's a bit of a slower process than the Grand Theft Auto 5, when characters are far away from each other. Throughout the rest of the mission, the player can switch between Ricardo in the gunfight and during the escape, and Casey fleeing the scene without being caught. Now, the stealth mechanics are one of the points Rockstar drove home with this game, so expect them to be greatly improved. So according to the leak, the playable third character Rose is indeed law enforcement. Rose is a cop, Lieutenant Rose no less. The widow of the chief killed by Ricardo, as mentioned earlier, is taken hostage by Casey after an undefined amount of time in hiding with the kidnapped lieutenant. She develops a relationship with Ricardo. Now, Rose at the police station leads a briefing on the events she's lived through. Unbeknownst to her colleagues, she and Ricardo are engaging in a secret love affair. Ooh, Rose being the on the receiving end of a large regular salary every month, in-game month that is, as well as living in a nice house on the outskirts of Vice City. You are now free to switch between all three characters for the remainder of the game, with each of the playable characters going about their ways. Rose catches bad guys, helping R and K while hunting them down. Now, as Rose, lots of side activities are available. There's a serial killer on the loose in Vice City that Rose and her team can track down. This is more of an Easter egg that can be solved through good police work and smart thinking than a direct activity, according to the leak. She can also patrol the streets, arrest criminals, etc. She is the only character with access to the in-game stock market that's far more fleshed out than in Grand Theft Auto 5, with more dynamic variables, less easily exploited, and even dividend options for long-term investments. Sounds interesting. Now, in one mission, Ricardo fires a specialized rifle that shoots rock climbing bolts to aid Rose in climbing up a cliff. So you get gadgets there. At this point, the game's main focus switches to Rose, and there are a few activities available for R and K besides odd, stranger and freaks jobs, which are not marked on the map this time, and other ways to make small amounts of money and build up contacts. So it's all worth pointing out, noting that unlike previous titles, the heists in Grand Theft Auto 6 will only fail if Rose, Ricardo or Casey are killed. Otherwise, it doesn't matter whether the score is successful and you leave millionaires or you chicken out and leave empty-handed. There are no direct checkpoints that you must complete to advance the game. Interesting. That's the rumored / leaked 3 characters and backstory, though to be honest I've cut out an awful lot of detail here, as the amount of text is unbelievable, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. What I'm saying is, if this is all bullcrap, this person is insane to have come up with all this information. I mean, there's so much minutia in the details, it at least seems somewhat plausible. Now, in terms of locations to be featured in Grand Theft Auto 6, well, we sort of know about the rumored Vice City, Miami, making a return. That's Miami, Florida. But according to the leak, we also visit locations such as Liberty State, Carson City, Cottonmouth, with a prologue to the game allegedly set in South America. I take it Panama or somewhere. Now, Grand Theft Auto 6 apparently began development way back in 2014, which would suggest that this game has been in development 9 years by the time it reaches gamers' hands. And Grand Theft Auto 6 is Gen 9 only. That's PS5 and Xbox Series platforms, and obviously PC. Now, the map size is said to be 140 square miles, which is huge, and the game is allegedly set in 2023, so it's a very modern entry in the Grand Theft Auto series. Now, the game length is estimated to be around 4,500 minutes. Bizarre way to tally that up, but by my math, is approximately around 75 hours of fun. Now, astonishingly, Grand Theft Auto 6 has a rumored budget of $500 million US. Yes, 500 million US dollars, with a marketing spend estimated at around 100 million. Now, Grand Theft Auto 6 is rumored to release in 2023, with a debut trailer planned for Q3 2022. Yes, this year, in a couple of months apparently. Now, there is so much more detail in the link. Go peruse, and if a fraction of any of this is legit, you are listening to one happy gamer. Rumor or not, it's all very fascinating stuff, and like I stated, it would take a person with levels of insanity unknown to have fabricated all the aforementioned information, though you can't put nothing past people these days, right? Though what say you? Let's continue the discussion cordially in the comments. Go ahead, sound off, share your thoughts and opinions on today's news, as that brings us to the end of the video. Subscribe for more gaming news, rumor and speculation. Hit the like button, and yes, hit the notification bell so we don't miss each other. And you can help Foxy Games UK reach more gamers. Feel free to share the video. You may also want to consider supporting Foxy Games UK via Patreon because, well, we're like family now, so thank you. And you can find the link in the video's description. But that concludes our time together on this Friday. Thanks for hanging out with me. Until next time, play games, not corporations.